everybody. Normally, we're not live Thursday nights, but for the news that broke earlier this morning, we kind of had to be. It wasn't. It was only 20. It was not even 48 hours ago at this point where we were talking about the passing of Ozzy Osbourne, another great who was in this. Who was part of wrestling. And I didn't think that we would have to be doing another tribute show tonight, but fortunately, we're kind of in that position because news broke earlier this morning through TMZ that the wrestling world lost the immortal, probably one of the biggest stars in the world of professional wrestling. The immortal Hulk Hogan passed away today at the age of 71. According to TMZ, the claim is that it was cardiac arrest. So tonight's show will be in tribute to him. I did send out the invite to quite a few people, so hopefully we'll have some TMZ. Okay, that was loud. I hear myself repeat on that one. But guys, without further ado, we're going to now do a 10-bell salute in the honor of legacy of the one Hulk Hogan. Again, guys, that tonight's show is in remembrance of the late great Hulk Hogan. And the first guest we actually have is a guy who this is actually kind of cool that I actually get to get him on a wrestling show and not talk about the Buffalo Sabres. But I want to welcome to the show the one, the only Ginger Hammer. Glad you're able to join me tonight, my friend.
Hey, thanks, John, and thanks for offering to have me come on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And believe me, I would love to have had you on better circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, for sure.
With what happened. So obviously I know you're not so big into wrestling now. You were more big into wrestling, back in the Hogan days.
Mm-hmm.
What are some memories you had of watching Hogan on TV?
There's quite a few, and being a kid that grew up in the 80s, obviously, I got to see a lot of stuff, both in the WWF days, then, of course, WCW, when he ended up going over to that promotion, and then, of course, going back to WWE. But definitely some classic matches I can think of. I mean, the one that most everyone would probably say put Hogan on the map was WrestleMania 1 1985, when he ended up fighting Andre the Giant, and of course ended up doing the body slam, leg drop, 1 2 3.
That was WrestleMania 3.
WrestleMania 3. Sorry about that. But that is still one of the classic moments. But then when you look at what Hogan did over time, with some of the feuds that he had with Terry Funk back in the day, when you look at what he had with Macho Man Randy Savage, Roddy Piper, and then going into more recent years, of course, when he ended up fighting The Rock at WrestleMania, that was one of the more memorable and epic matches because you had two arguably largest icons that existed in the sport. And then, of course, thinking about one of the ways that he changed pro wrestling, everyone who's followed him for a long time when he was at WCW, of course, everyone remembers when he flipped to the dark side and joined the New World Order. And that, I think, just showing that he wasn't just babyface Hogan anymore. He could play a legitimate heel, and he did that to a lot of in a lot of great ways. And it's one of those things. He made people hate him, and he made people believe the storylines, and just the way that he could entertain. I mean, he, without a doubt, is one of the legends. Glad to see that he got inducted into the Hall of Fame, and rightfully so. He deserves it. I mean, one of the things I could even say is that, was he the best technical wrestler on the planet? No, I can name at least 5 of them right off the top of my head that were better. But when you look at the it factor and how he drew people and how he got everybody's attention, I mean, he paved the way. I mean, it's a big loss for the wrestling world today.
It definitely is. And I'll put it this way. And now, obviously, I've done quite a few of these tribute shows over the 4 years that the show's been around for. And, some of them it's like, okay, it's 10 minutes, you talk about it quickly, and you move on. But it's like, you talk about one of the most polarizing figures in professional wrestling. You can't get more polarizing than Hulk Hogan. I mean, I saw my Facebook, that's normally not filled with wrestling content, mind you. No, folks, I'm not that obsessed with wrestling that everything on my Facebook feed is wrestling, 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 wrestling. But for every person who was saying they loved Hogan, that's how many people were saying they hated Hogan. And it really got me thinking that I wanted to come on here tonight and be like, look, guys, you may have your things about Hogan for what he said and everything and what he did, but we all have to realize one thing. If it wasn't for what Hogan did back in the 80s, leaving the AWA, coming to WWE, actually, that was WWF at that time, and becoming arguably one of the biggest legends and icons in this industry, who knows if pro wrestling would even be what it is today? Let's just call a spade a spade.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, without Hogan basically paving the way for everybody, I highly doubt you would have people like Stone Cold Steve Austin, Sid, The Rock, of course, Bret the Hitman Hart, Owen Hart, which I remember seeing that show when he died in Kansas City, unfortunately. Then, of course, other wrestlers like John Cena, Undertaker, you name it. The genre would not exist like it does today without Hogan. There's just no way. And who knows where things could have gone. I mean, sure, it's possible that you could have had some great characters. It's possible that you could have had some great storylines, but Hogan is the one that really put wrestling on the map, and he's the one, whether regardless of any personal things he did outside of the ring or regardless of anyone's stance on him, you have to look at how he made it entertainment. And that's one of the things that he did better than anybody at that time. And it's definitely something where his in-ring work, I mean, there's a lot of respect, regardless if you like him or hate him. And I definitely have a lot of respect for him because he did some good things back in his time. And he truly did put it on the map. I mean, look at how the New World Order ended up causing WCW to beat the WWE Monday Night Raw, or WWF Monday Night Raw at the time, and it was like, and I think it was like it was over like at minimum at least 1 to 2 years straight.
80. There's the term that they always use called 83 weeks.
Yeah,
because it was 83 weeks at W. But I mean, here's another thing. Also, right now we're in the wrestling world. We're in the middle of the biggest heel turn right now with John Cena.
Right.
But you look at him before John Cena turned heel. I mean, let's call a spade here. But Hogan would have the biggest heel turn. And actually, Tom, before we do have somebody else who's joined us, a independent wrestler as well, and actually a friend of the show, Blocks.
Hey, what's going on, gentlemen?
Blocks, I know it's, not the circumstances that we want to have you on, but I think we had to talk about this guy. And actually, Blocks, before we get to you, do you have a comment coming in here from fan of the show, David, who literally watches us every time we go live? He goes, "Hey, John, don't usually check in on a Thursday, but I just want to pop in for a minute to share my grief over Hulk Hogan. Although he may have been surrounded in some controversy over the last few years, I was very much a Hulkamaniac when I was a boy. I used to argue with my friends when we used to play wrestling over who would be Hogan. Such a sad blow to the wrestling world. We lost an icon." So, Block, let me ask you now, what are some of your fondest memories of watching Hogan on TV?
I mean, when he showed up on WCW, I mean, it's got to be one of the biggest moments. I mean, he's had one hell of a career with the slamming Andres, a big iconic moment at, Mania 3. But, he's had tremendous, like, when you talk about Hogan and highlights and iconic moments, I think Hogan's had probably the most iconic moments and most iconic moments than any other wrestler in the world. I mean, you're still seeing now on TikToks and on Instagram reels of him wrestling in Japan when everybody said he couldn't wrestle. Hogan could never wrestle, but that wasn't Hogan's gimmick. Hogan wasn't a wrestler.
No.
Hogan's gimmick was that larger than life athlete that he's always, as big as he was and as powerful as he was still kind of always the underdog in most of his matches. And to put somebody like that as an underdog in most of their matches as his first run in WWE, I mean, that was pretty hard to do. And I mean, whether it was going against Sheik, Sergeant Slaughter, the Ultimate Warrior,
yeah.
You can, the list could go on and on. When he had his feud with $1 Million Man, like there's so many memories of him being the underdog, and it's like this guy was what 6'5", 6'6", 300 and something pounds, just the perfect
6'7"
wrestler, the perfect wrestler build, and he was the underdog, but he was that one that he was America, he was Mr. America. Like, come on now. Good always could prevail. So I mean, it's a sad day today.
It definitely is. And I mean, going back to WrestleMania 1, that's the one everybody talks about, him and Mr. T taking on Paul Orndorff, and now I just wrote back down who Orndorff's partner was in that tag match.
Wasn't it?
Oh, Piper.
Yeah, it was Piper. Yeah.
People. We've been saying this on our show a lot. People don't realize if it wasn't for the success of what we saw in that WrestleMania 1, WrestleMania wouldn't become the 2-night event that we're seeing now. And I was listening today, obviously, me being a wrestling fan, I listen a lot to Pro Wrestling Nation. I got to give them a shout out. Formerly Fight Nation on Sirius XM. Yep. And they had a lot of, guys on who worked with Hogan, and somebody made a great comment. The only reason why they called it WrestleMania was because of how big Hulkamania was. And I never knew that until now. And the other story I heard today that kind of blew me away. Do you know the famous, obviously we don't know the famous scene now, the famous scene where he's body slamming Andre at WrestleMania 3? He didn't know that he was going to be body slamming him till I think he came out of curtain.
Yeah, it was like last minute.
Yeah, because wasn't Andre hurt at the time? Like he was badly hurt.
No. What happened was Andre supposedly, from the story that I heard, loved to rip on people.
Yeah.
And he didn't talk to Hogan at all that day. And it wasn't until I think maybe a few minutes before their match, because the thing is, you have to realize it was up to him if Hogan was going to body slam. Because you got to realize, when you're the size of Andre the freaking Giant,
right, 500 pounds.
And at that point, he hadn't been beaten in like 15 years at that point. Well, so
they said supposedly he didn't tell Hogan till right before they came out of Gorilla that they were going to go out there. Oh yeah, by the way, your body slamming me tonight.
Yeah. Well, I know I was. It's funny. I was watching that you bring that up. I was watching something a little bit ago saying that he had to take care of him during that match as well, because when he initially went for the first body slam, that was supposed to happen then, but Andre, his something with his back. I guess it was the back. It was that bad at that point where he just sandbagged it and full on shoot. It went down on him. That's why that 3 almost happened. If you rewatch it, that match almost finished in about a minute of starting.
Like, here's the funny thing. I'm actually going to pull up now quickly that card, that WrestleMania 3 card, and I bring it up because obviously we all talk about this many years later. We still talk about Hogan and Andre, but I mean, you want to talk about some of the other matches that we had that night. I'm going to pull the card up right now. Actually,
WrestleMania 3, that was that card, wasn't that Savage and Steamboat? Did they go on that card as well?
Yep, that was Savage and Steamboat,
and that was a masterpiece of a match as well.
That was also, we had Harley Race taking on Junkyard Dog.
Okay,
was that one?
I got to rewatch WrestleMania 3.
You had Piper and Adonis were on that card. Now, the funny thing is, though, if you look back on it now, obviously we talk about all those matches, but if Hogan never body slammed Andre, would that WrestleMania have become as iconic as it did if it wasn't for Hogan?
I'll let you speak if you want to speak first. I mean, you guys.
Yeah, I would say probably not. I think the body slam that everyone saw, it really put WrestleMania on the map, and it became the event that we all see today, which is a multi-day event. I just don't. I just don't see how it would have gotten as much on the map as it did. And the thing is, there was a good card. I mean, all around. And you mentioned, of course, Steamboat's match, which Steamboat, great wrestler in his time, probably one of the best technical wrestlers that's out there for his era. And then when you look at some of the other matches that ended up taking place, I mean, of course, you had Junkyard Dog, Harley Race. We ended up having, of course, the mixed tag match, King Kong Bundy and Lord Littlebrook and Little Tokyo against Hillbilly Jim and Haiti Kid and Little Beaver. So, of course, I still throw that out there. But the way that that match with Andre the Giant and Hogan, it put it on the map. And it made WrestleMania must-watch TV every year, and it's continued to be that. Even though now I think that WWE, I mean, I think a lot of the storylines are not as good as they used to be. I think on the flip side, the actual wrestling part of it is a lot better than what we saw back 10, 20 years ago. I mean, just in terms of how skilled these wrestlers are. It's just the storyline part is where I think we need to see more work, but at the same time, WrestleMania, it's a must-see event every year.
I mean, Blocks, before I get your take on it quickly, people just have to remember, WrestleMania now, compared to what it was in the 80s when they were first starting it, WrestleMania now has become its own brand. It's like you can turn around and have nobody on the card, but you know damn well it's going to get a good attendance because it's WrestleMania. It's a prime example. Tom, obviously from the sports world, you'll get this reference.
Yeah.
Super Bowl. You could have two teams in it that absolutely suck. But somehow, some magical way, the refs didn't call for the Chiefs in that one.
Right.
For some reason. But then you're still going to get 50,000, 60,000 because it's the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
or
and then of course how many people watch on TV and everything too. I mean, the Super Bowl, everybody watches it every year. It's one of those must-see events, and it's a good comparison, like you mentioned, with WrestleMania, where WrestleMania is basically its own brand, just like the Super Bowl is its own brand, and it's just how it's evolved over time. And when you see massive stadiums for WrestleMania selling out, I mean, look at some recent times where you've had it at MetLife, where they've had it at MetLife Stadium. They've had it at large venues, and you're getting 80,000+ there. That's what you're getting in Super Bowl numbers typically.
But Blocks, I was going to go back to what to the question to you though about with the body slam. If it didn't happen, do you think we'd be sitting here now talking about that one being so iconic?
It wouldn't be as iconic as it is without that moment. That like both of you said, put WrestleMania even more so on the map. I mean, that every first time you see WrestleMania, they always show that as the first moment of WrestleMania, because they don't show Hogan and Mr. T in that match. They don't show anything from really WrestleMania 2. They'll throw in hints a little there, but the first moment you see is Hogan body slamming Andre, because that's what made WrestleMania. So even though WrestleMania would have still turned out to be an amazing card, because I think that Steamboat Savage match would have been the highlight and the talk of that WrestleMania, but it wouldn't have been as instrumental as iconic as what's helped the WrestleMania brand. Like you guys said, like it's a 2-night, its own event. Like literally, you have celebrities who's coming in that are trying to learn the business and been fans all their life to be a part of this. You got people coming from outside of entertainment, and you got influencers now trying to be a part of WrestleMania. I mean, every and anybody wants to be at a WrestleMania, even if you're not a wrestling fan, because of the experience of it. Like the Super Bowl, you can have two teams that are there, but if you look in the stands, you see many more jerseys of different fans from different teams that are in the building, because it's just I gotta have that experience of being at the Super Bowl, and it's the same with WrestleMania. So I think that was, like, you guys perfectly nailed it. Without that moment, it wouldn't be talked about as much as when you talk about WrestleMania. That's pretty much the first memory you think of.
But you also have to remember, though, throughout Hogan's run, especially in WWF, he was always the babyface. He was always, even though even though there's always a discussion, was he truly a babyface in WWE, WWF back in the day? Let's be honest, yes, he was. But then let's jump forward here a little bit. WCW, that infamous night, July '97.
Changed the business forever.
Yeah,
and I'm just going to put it this way. I don't think we're talking NWO.
Don't mind me. There's a lot of mosquitoes, so if you see me swatting, I'm just dealing with state mosquitoes out here.
You're good. I get it. Believe me, I get it. But let's talk about that night. And somebody posted a picture earlier of that infamous moment when the four of them are in the ring, and somebody posted a photo of it. And like, if you look at it now, there's only one left from that photo.
Yeah, I know, man.
I had that. I was like, I just got chills down my spine. I'm like, yeah, it's that. But look at it that way. As good as he was a babyface, you can make the argument he was as much better of a heel.
Yeah, I totally think so. And I mean, that night when he ended up joining in 1996, he literally pissed the entire world off when people were watching Nitro, and that was, and Nitro was must see TV back in the day on TNT. They had something good running there.
They had some angles.
Nobody in their right mind thought that he would join Hall and Nash. And of course, rest in peace, Scott Hall, another great wrestler, gone way too soon. And just him forming that, becoming part of that faction, and then how arguably the NWO became probably the best faction of all time when anyone looks back at it, and how they evolved. And then of course, when you look at some of the storylines later on, when you had the split, you had Black and White, you had the Wolf Pack, and then of course when you had some of the different members that ended up joining, looking back, like Scott Norton, Masahiro Chono is another one, Rick Rude part of it for a short time. I mean, many others. And then of course when you look at the Wolfpack side, you had Sting, Lex Luger, and so forth. I mean, again, great wrestlers that were part of it. It allowed for a lot of must-see TV, allowed for some great matches that ended up coming up as part of it. And I would say Hogan was part of that group, and they were doing storylines that a lot of people never expected back at the time. I would almost say it was a precursor to the Attitude Era in the WWF back in the day. It kind of set the tone for it, and then it forced the WWF to one-up everybody, and then it forced WCW to start doing the same thing. And then, of course, you had the Monday Night Wars that were going on, and I don't think the Monday Night Wars really start without Hogan either.
I look at it this way. You look at, and somebody made the joke today. They're like, well, I guess Hogan will always be the third man. Obviously this week we lost Theo from whatchamacallit.
Cosby Show.
Yeah, man.
Obviously, Ozzy was earlier this week, and it's funny. This is gonna sound weird how I phrase this next line, but this is the only way I can phrase this. Okay, you look at Ozzy. You look at Hogan. Yes, they're two pioneers within the music world and the pro wrestling world. But there's a big similarity between them. And I'm going to explain this the best way I can. Okay? You look at Ozzy. He was great with Black Sabbath. But he was great by himself. Look at Hulk Hogan. He was great with the NWO. But then look at him solo. That's my comparison, is both Ozzy and Hogan were both good at being, doing stuff on their own or doing stuff in a group.
Yeah, they had the it factor.
100%. And what a lot of people forget to realize is how many times Hogan reinvented himself. I mean, yeah, we talk his babyface run in WWE to start the Hulkamania, and then we talk about his turn in WCW when the NWO was formed and how he pissed off the entire world. But when he came back to WWF and they brought the NWO over here, in the beginning when they first brought him in, the NWO was the NWO of WCW from the beginning when they first started. They were kicking ass. Like they brought those ratings back that were lacking because, at that point you have one product and it was kind of, with the storylines dying down, and then all of a sudden Vince McMahon wants to ruin WWF and he's bringing in the NWO, and all of a sudden everybody, I mean, myself personally in the beginning was like, oh God, they're gonna kill the NWO's whole vibe, how WCW had it, and it actually captivated me. Like, oh, excuse me, oh snap! Like these guys are what they were. They're giving them that freedom to be them.
Yeah.
So, and then when he came after WrestleMania 17, when he faced The Rock, when that massive pop he got, he went back to the red and yellow. He reinvented himself again and went on another run, became champion again. Fast forward a little more, he becomes tag champs with Edge, reinvents himself again.
Yep.
Like this man's been in the business for what, over 60 years? I would say,
at least 50 plus years.
And every single time he's been his TNA run, I mean, it wasn't always the best, but he made them compete for a while there before everything started dying down there. Like everywhere he's been and touched down, this man's changed every single part of the business. And I know he gets heat for Terry Bollea the man, but at the end of the day, we're all human. Everybody makes mistakes. I've heard stuff in this locker rooms that would make that seem irrelevant to what everybody's complaining about with him. You know what I mean? And everybody's like, oh, he never got a chance to apologize or do right by people. Listen, the man 18 months ago went and got baptized and saved by God himself. He turned his life over. He went and spoke to the man who was important to wash away all his sins and repent everything that he's done in his past. He was good with the person he needed to be good with. And if everybody's gonna run with the whole what he said and what he did about Brooke's husband or boyfriend, whatever it was, everybody's always gonna complain. The man we're talking about is Hulk Hogan, the role model that everybody idolized because he's what this business became of. 90% of the people that are upset with him started watching this because of him. So I understand frustration with people, but at the end of the day, the man owed nobody an apology but the man upstairs, and he got right with him. So
yeah, it was definitely one of the things. Even he mentioned at the time a year ago, he said it was the best feeling ever when he decided to go that route and get right with the man upstairs. And you just basically, it's almost like he had that rebirth, which is good. And even looking back outside of the ring, one of the things that a lot of people seem to realize in some cases is that, of course, he had a career outside the ring. Of course, Rocky III was a big screen debut for him, and then, of course, a lot of people may remember that he had his short-lived show Thunder in Paradise, where he was basically kicking ass and taking names on some of the bad guys and all that. Which kind of thought about that today, but it is something where he did a lot of stuff outside the ring, and then, of course, he had different products and things, and actually. One of the things I remember is here locally in March, he was promoting his beer and he was signing autographs and talking to people in person.
Same over here. He was up in the Hudson Valley. He had a couple areas up here, and the lines were around the corner.
Same here.
The man is a legend. He's an icon. I mean, did he have problems in the beginning, or not even in the beginning, towards the end after retirement? People found out about. Yeah, it's like all heroes. Something you're going to find out about them is going to disappoint you. The man wasn't perfect. He was perfect for 60-something years, possibly.
Right.
In professional wrestling. His personal life, you're going to find out something that you didn't like. And the man, at the end of the day, he was sorry about it. He said he was publicly sorry about it.
Yeah.
Many of times, but people forget about that as well. And, he got right with who he needed to at the end of the day. So I'm pretty sure his family, I seen a statement, his family was by his side, and I'm pretty sure everybody... It went peacefully, and unfortunately, we lost a damn legend, man. It's great.
Yeah, and one thing, he went out the way he loved going out, and of course, he always loved staying close to that ring. He always loved promoting it, and even though he's stepped away from it in the last little bit, he never lost that desire to be in that ring. He never lost that desire to be in the industry. So it's definitely a big loss for everybody. And like you said, I mean, sure, personal life, he had some issues, but who doesn't? We all do. We've all screwed up at some point or another.
I was going to say,
it's just normal.
No, I get it. But I was going to say the people who, and I've seen a lot on Facebook blocks, you probably have seen it as well, with everybody. I don't know how many times, and I was saying this beforehand, For every 3 people who were saying, "Oh, rest in peace, Hogan," you had 8 people who were saying, "Oh, I'm not going to mourn him. I'm sorry."
Listen,
You,
man, people have turned this. They as much as they want to deny it, they've let political stuff run their life.
yep,
This is shooting it straight. At the end of the day, Hogan was a supporter of somebody, and people didn't like that fact. But I guarantee you, if Hogan voted the other way, everybody would be mourning him the same way we're mourning him right now. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody is so wrapped up with what's going on that it's thinking ridiculous that you're making fun of a man's death. You're out here bashing a man who just died. Like his family got phones. They got to see this stuff. Like they know what he did in his past, and they know that what he's overcome to fight those demons. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, they don't need to be seeing that. Like the man gave his life to this business. Without Hogan, wrestling would not be.
There is no business.
Every wrestling would still be in the way us indie guys are.
yeah, exactly.
There would be no global phenomenon where everybody has a goal to get to the WWE. Yeah, Vince McMahon gave him the character. Yeah, Vince McMahon gave him a direction. But without him to do what he did, there's no sports entertainment.
Yeah,
No, but
totally agree.
I was going to say this though. For the people who are sitting there on social media, who are saying, "Oh, I don't want to mourn him," that whole 9 yards. That I saw a post today from a wrestler, Cade Blocks. I think you may know him.
Yeah, I don't know. I know of him.
He wrote a comment today that I thought was perfectly said, where he's sitting there saying, if you're bashing Hogan and you're somebody in the wrestling industry, just walk away now. Because to me,
yeah,
I was going to say, and again, Blocks, you know this very well. I'm coming from a fan's perspective on this. And when I'm sitting there seeing these guys, see everybody bash him, I'm sitting there going, do you guys realize you guys are wrestling fans? And if it wasn't for this man, you would not know what pro wrestling is.
It's crazy. And I know a lot of the newer, younger generation, they got the end of it. They got Hogan in the years where he was not the greatest where he could have been. You know what I mean? So I understand what frustration again they have with him. But if you respect this business, if you respect anything about this business, this man is what this business has become because of him. He went to two companies and blew them both up. WCW could have easily taken the war and Hogan would have taken another company above and beyond. WCW would have been what WWE is now. But it didn't happen that way. Like this man almost did the impossible. Everything that everybody's trying to do, take WWE out, all these other big time, mainstream promotions that's out there. WCW was the closest to doing it because when Hogan and NWO went there, they had the great talent. They just didn't have the names. Hogan, Nash, and Hall. They legit were the names.
Yeah, and then you had bigger names starting to come over to WCW once those three were there. And you look at how they developed. I mean, Lex Luger ended up joining. Then, of course, you had other wrestlers like Rey Mysterio got his start in WCW, and look where he ended up at after all that time. Of course, he originally started in Mexico Lucha Libre, and then he ended up moving forward and became one of the larger stars that the WWE has had in some time. Chris Jericho, another one that developed and came out of it too. So, I mean, there's a lot of great things that happened because of Hogan, and I mean, no one can deny it. I actually wanted to ask you guys something too, and I wanted to see did either of you have a chance to catch what Kevin Nash said on X earlier, or the Ric Flair TMZ interview?
I seen the Ric Flair interview. I didn't see what Kevin Nash.
Yeah. So Kevin Nash said on Twitter that quote, "I lost another brother. Icon doesn't even touch it. Rest in power, my friend. NWO for life and beyond." So it's and he's dealt with a lot of loss because of course he lost his son recently, and then of course Scott Hall as well. And I mean, it's just he's unfortunately dealt with a lot of that. But even Vince McMahon acknowledged all the good things that Hogan did during his career today too. And I know Vince gets a lot of flack lately, especially with some of his dealings before he ended up leaving WWE. But Ric Flair told some interesting stories today too. And I would say if you guys haven't had a chance to take a look at it, it's a good 10-minute interview to watch. And Ric Flair was just torn up. I mean, you couldn't feel nothing but bad for him on that.
Yeah.
I'll say this much. You know, we bring up Hogan and you bring up Flair. You want to talk about a dream match that WWE really missed the ball on. You could have easily done the biggest babyface versus the biggest heel. And it's funny. My dad actually just brought up a very valid question. I'm going to ask you guys this, and obviously people who are watching this. Did Hogan make wrestling, or did wrestling make Hogan?
So I'll answer first if you don't mind. I would say wrestling made Hogan, because before he was Hulkamania, he was running the territories, and you know he was learning the craft and getting his name out there, and everybody seeing who he was, and you know the stories of him going over to Japan and getting his leg broken, and you know all that stuff, and proving himself in the business. But I would say wrestling made Hogan, but Hogan made sports entertainment.
I think
that would be my
way to say it.
And then one other question I have is, who was, obviously we talk about Hogan, but who was bigger, Hogan or McMahon, to where wrestling basically became? Like, if you had, let me rephrase it, if you had to sit there and you had, and again, I'm not saying you have to give one person more credit than the other, but if you had to sit there and be like, okay, this person should get a little bit more credit, who would it be? Would it be Hogan or Vince?
That's a tough question.
That is. I mean, Vince was the creator of Hulk Hogan and had the vision, but I think the credit has to go to Hogan, because I don't think even Vince could have envisioned what this became of. And I remember Hogan saying that he was offered a movie role at one point, and he was threatened to be fired if he took it or something like that.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think Hogan seen what Vince's vision was and kind of said, if this works out with the way we're thinking, this can go globally. I can get into the acting business, and I can get those eyes on the entertainment world, on professional wrestling, to bring in the asses to fill those seats so we could get better paydays. So I think Vince gets credit in it, but I think Hogan gets the credit for the bigger picture of everything.
Right. Yeah, I would say, I mean, Vince had a great vision. He knew where he wanted it to go. It was really up to Hogan to really take it where he wanted to go. And who would have thought that Hogan would have taken it as far as he did? I mean, he really took the ball and ran with it, and really caused wrestling to go just from wrestling, like you said, to sports entertainment and what we all see today, and really paved the way for a lot of things that we see now. And then I also look back, and even just thinking about Vince's vision, I mean, he surrounded himself with some good people back at the time too. So of course he had some good talent. He ended up, Hogan was the big one, obviously, but when you look at some of the writing staff that he brought in, especially during the Monday Night Wars, and really got wrestling to be must talk every single Tuesday morning. And I could tell you that when I back at the time I was in high school, when the Monday Night Wars were going on, yep, that was the first thing us guys would typically talk about. Oh, did you see Raw last night? Did you see Nitro last night? Did you see all this stuff that happened? And it's just, the storylines got really creative to the point where it really, I think in some ways, the storylines became more of the draw than the actual matches themselves, but it really put the wrestlers on the map, and it really got their names out there. So I think that Vince had the vision. Hogan really took it forward, and then it just exploded into what we saw.
Well, I got one more question I want to bring up, then we're going to wrap up, what we have here right now. Obviously, we talk about Hogan. We talk about, Vince created Hogan, the character of Hulk Hogan. Last question. This one's going to be another tough one, so I'm just giving you guys a heads up. Who was the bigger character that Vince created? Was it Hogan or was it Taker?
That is a tough one.
Yeah, both iconic. I mean, both iconic. Genius ideas to come up with these characters. I personally, I mean, not only because this is a Hogan tribute thing, but I would have to say Hogan because it was a longer run. I mean, Taker is going to surpass it eventually until God he meets with him. But I think from Hogan's Hulkamania run was just it's longer. So I mean, I would have to say it would be that one. I mean, the longer run to me. They're both. I mean, it's a tough one. Shit, damn you. Because I want to keep my answer because I love Taker. Like Taker's the reason why I got into business. That and Hogan as well is like a main factor to what I see when I vision the business and how I look at everything. I use a little Taker, a little Hogan, a little Austin. I take a little from every generation and try to mix it all, mingle all in there with a few others, but. Ooh, man, because you could even throw Austin in there and say that's one of what I mean. So it's tough.
You can even go a step further. You can throw The Rock in there.
Yeah,
very true.
That's one of those. But I mean, we're also forgetting some of the better Hogan memories. We all remember WCW towards the end of WCW when he had to wear the chain, and for some reason, I think the story is they lost it or something, and he ended up wearing paper clips as a chain. There's that memory. And who could forget the famous match of all, him and Shawn Michaels, when Shawn Michaels oversold everything.
Oh man.
Not to mention a famous chair shot to Conan.
Right. He took that one pretty good.
Yeah.
And actually, little last thing to mention. Do you guys know what his original entrance music was? Before it was Real American? They said it today on the radio, and I was actually kind of surprised.
Yeah,
This was what, pre-WWF or?
I think pre-WWF, but there was a short time he came out to another song. Hold on. Do you know the answer?
Yeah, I can't even think of it.
Eye of the Tiger.
Really?
Supposedly, from my understanding, I got to go back and reread the story. Supposedly, Real America was never supposed to be for Hogan originally. It was supposed to be, I mean, Block, you see it in wrestling. How many times entrance music is supposed to be for one person, but ends up being for somebody else?
Yeah, sometimes, it fits another person's character, and it works out to be working that way. So it definitely happens. So that's pretty cool. I mean, that's a cool trivia question. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. You just got me thinking of another thing too. I mean, Ernest the Cat Miller and how his music was eventually used for Tyrus.
Yeah.
Oh,
looking at it a little later on, of course, since he's left the industry now, but I remember that back at the time when he was using that, and they had him as the big time baby face towards the end of his run.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just curious to see now for something here. Obviously, we got SmackDown coming to you live tomorrow night. They're going to do a tribute package to him.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see, does he get booed? And the other thing also I'm curious to see, Hogan was in the process of starting his own wrestling promotion. Him and Eric Bischoff.
Well, Eric Bischoff already made a statement on that. He said they're still going to proceed with that. That's still happening.
I'm curious to see now if they pivot with certain things because Hogan's not there. So it'll be very interesting to see how it all plays out. But guys, again, continue leaving your comments in the comment section below.
Real quick. I know we talked about how many times Hogan reinvented himself, but I can't go without saying when he reinvented himself as Mr. America.
Yes.
I mean, it's a short run, but it was a great little run. That whole thing with Vince. That was a cool little spot they had there for a few months.
Well, okay, you bring that up now. Okay, now this comes up to mind. You go through, you kept seeing how he keeps reinventing himself, but you notice he never changed his look really.
No, just grew the black beard.
Yeah, it's very nice stuff.
Well, the funny thing is, they showed a picture. I saw it on some page. The last photo, a public photo of him before his eventual passing earlier today, and he had the white goatee thing that everybody knows him for, and he was started growing the black beard. I'm like, oh my god, he's turning back into NWO Hogan.
He was embracing the heel Hogan. Now, would this not? I mean, God rest his soul, but would this not be the biggest swerve and heel turn of all time if he showed up on SmackDown as Hollywood Hogan?
Oh man!
Oh man! Imagine how many people
that would be the biggest earthquake in the industry we'd probably ever see.
Blocks. That's what I then hop on. That's what I text you. I go, do you know something that we didn't know?
If that happens, man, I'm playing the lotto tomorrow.
Right.
Like,
throw the $5 in the Powerball. Here we go, trying to win $1 billion.
Guys, I appreciate you guys both hopping in here just to commemorate. I mean, yeah, I could have waited till Tuesday, but I was like, this had to be done tonight. Everybody was talking about it. I figured, let me throw something together. Tom, I'll throw it to you first.
Yeah.
First time on the show, final thoughts, and if you want to promote the I-86 stuff, go right ahead.
Yeah, so of course, great to be on with you guys, and Box, great to meet you for the first time too. And I'll just say, Hogan was pioneer in the industry. He did a lot of things that paved the way for not only the people that made it to the top promotions, but he's done a lot for the indie guys too. So, definitely just want to say the stuff he's done, may he rest in peace. And then we'll also say too, we've got the I-86 After Dark starting in September, and we've got some big interviews already lined up. So of course, H&H Entertainment's where we're at. We've actually got the show streaming on there right now too. So we shared the link, and we've got that going as well. But no, I definitely appreciate being able to come on and share some thoughts.
Absolutely. Blocks. Obviously, I keep saying TNA Superstar, but I think at this point I can call you friend of the show at this point.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we've reached that point. We've been at that point before the camera. It's a sad day in the business. We mourn, the loss of an icon, but what's great about this business is that we have, and we could still live through all the memories he's left us. I mean, we can see everything that we've talked about. We can go and watch it and still learn. I still watch stuff like that, still learn. So all the young guys, go watch Hogan. You want to get over, you watch the most person who's ever gotten over in the professional wrestling industry. So, it's a sad day, to the people who, feel negative about the situation and talking negative about it. I hope you find peace with it. And, I just hope you realize what he's meant to the business and to everybody who's mourning like us. We're all here with each other. We lost the true great. So, we're here together. We're gonna survive this. We're gonna move on from this, and we're just, Hulkamania lives forever. You know what I mean? So
absolutely, I could have said it better. A quick programming note for fans of Run Ropes. Next week we are back with another week full of interviews. We got Papa Don coming up next week. Kevin Nassar joins the show. Tristan Laws will be joining us. Orlando, who's a radio host out here on Long Island, who had a little bit of run in wrestling, will be on with us. And actually, Block, somebody quite well, will be on with us next Thursday. So I'm just leaving this one for list because you may want to pay attention to this one.
Who's going to be on, man?
Big Jeff Noyes.
Ooh, the Fun House champion.
And also starred in the new Happy Gilmore movie.
Yes, sir. That I believe comes out tomorrow, or did it come out today?
Tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Comes out tomorrow.
Yep, so we'll have...
Being that you mentioned him, let's not forget, August 23rd, he will, as I, be at TCW Seaside Showdown 4 at the Jersey Shore. So check him out. Go get an autograph from somebody who's been in the Adam Sandler movie.
But guys, again, thank you. To everybody who watched, thank you for watching. Everybody who left the comments, thank you. Guys, again, continue to leave the comments. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook. If you did not get a chance to catch us live tonight, you can always catch the replay of this either on Facebook or on YouTube. Or if you want the audio side of it, go to your local podcast store and you can get Around the Ropes there. Search the all-new ATR network. So, guys, again, appreciate everybody who joined. And again, guys, in case you're just joining us or you were not on social media today at all, we did lose an icon, a legend, the immortal Hulk Hogan. Guys, for Blocks and for Tom, I'm John. We're signing off. This has been Around the Ropes. Catch you guys soon.